Hey guys, and welcome back to the Shade Report. Today we're going to go over why showers are the danger zone for idols who are conscripted and have to serve their military service, and what that might mean if BTS is required to go to the military to fulfill their mandatory service to South Korea. Second, I want to take you on a little field trip to one of these modern new day neutro barbershops. There's tons of barbershops that are popping up in Seoul and in Korea, and they're not like the old style barber shops in the sense of like how your hair turns out, because it turns out cooler, but it has a retro feel. And lastly, I want to show you whether MISSHA's Time Revolution line actually turns back time and maybe reverses signs of aging. We'll get into that. All of that coming up. Alright, so in our last video, we talked about the potential enlistment of all of the BTS members, because whether they're going to get an exemption is still held up in limbo right now. We just don't know, and the culture minister said that the most important factor is public opinion. And so there were a lot of you guys on the message board stating your feelings about that. If you still haven't checked out that video, feel free to go for it, but you don't have to see it before this one, because I just wanted to show you what people have been talking about in terms of the potential dangers and pitfalls of when a super celebrity goes and serves their military duty. Now, of course, we've talked about how it may have damaging effects on their career, but let's just say, fine, it is a requirement. Everybody should do your military service, whether or not you're an idol, whether or not you have contributed greatly to South Korea. It does not include harassment in the shower. And I think this is the point that needs to be laser focused on. Whether this violation of personal privacy, along with distraction and just chaos around a celebrity in the mandatory enlistment, is actually a good thing, a net positive. And whether that issue, if we can solve that issue, just the showering issue, whether it may make it easier for us to accept that everybody has to go to the military, and whether, you know, we're really fighting the wrong battle, whether it's like this big moral debate. It comes down to showering your body. Now let's get into some of the examples of past idols who have gone into the military and found that this shower experience was horrendous. So first, let's start with G-Dragon of Big Bang. And it appeared that he was really trying to make friends, be honorable, just be one of the guys, and then also kind of like, I guess there's some sayings that he used his Amex Black card and just let everybody use it, and just, you know, kind of like, you know, smooth the edges with money, you know, and just say like, hey, what, you know, like, you throw things around and maybe it'll help, but it didn't. Why? I think he actually suffered quite the most egregious of some of the details that have come to light. Not only were people staring at him in the shower, and all the idols said that, like, you know, people would just like walk by the showers like back and forth and pretending not to look, but they want to look. These are guys. This is not like a co-ed situation. These are guys. So either, you know, they really wanted, you know, to see it, or they wanted to probably compare, because once you go into that military, it's a very odd situation where like all classes, groups of people come in, and then, you know, the ones with an inferiority complex will always try to see, like, you know, comparing. And I guess they wanted to compare that too and see, like, what does an idol have? That's what I'm surmising. Like, you know, if you're really not drawn to it, then you're probably trying to see, like, you know, like for your own ego. Well, not only that, there were reports that guys were drawing like diagrams of G-Dragon's body and showing like where he had freckles, where he had moles, where he had tattoos, where he had scars. And this information supposedly was just supposed to be sent to the guy's girlfriends, and it just blew up all over the internet. Not only that, his own doctor in the military hospital released his medical records to the internet. And so there was extreme violation of privacy. Not only that, people were stealing his belongings, including his underwear. Now, who steals another guy's panties, okay? Like, what were they trying to do? Sell it on eBay? But like, this is just way beyond the bounds, and actually I think harms the military and harms morale. And you would think that the superiors would kind of clamp down on that for the sanctity of the military, but apparently, you know, when you have military doctors doing that, and then we'll go over in a case where like a military superior way overstepped his bounds with another idol. And so G-Dragon had to really suffer a lot, and he apparently had a lot of injuries, and so he had to take a lot of medical leave, but then he also served through it. But then apparently they separated him out because of too much harassment. Even while he was eating, people were wasting time like staring at him eat. And the lieutenants in that case apparently forced people to say like, stop looking. Well, okay, yeah, just what about the showering part, okay? And then the press got in there, you know, the tabloid press, I guess maybe were trying to get information out, and there was a lot of photography, like photographing and filming apparently, of G-Dragon without his consent. And so this not only extended to the people in there, but when people were visiting their loved ones, you know, who were serving, apparently they were also even harassing the staff, saying like, we want to see G-Dragon. Like, how distracting is all this, and how horrible is it to his mental health? So he was separated, and I guess maybe given some sort of private quarters, and I think it was related to the health visits, like a private room in one of the military hospitals, and that created a lot of controversy because people are saying like, oh, he's getting special treatment. And so he couldn't have it both ways. It was really like, you know, darned if you do, darned if you don't. And so that is like the very precarious situation for some of these stars, because they also can't be seen acting out, because that's gonna be really bad for their image. But any other dude would probably be like, you know, stop it. Especially stop stealing my underwear. Okay, let's move to Taecyeon from 2 p.m. And I think he dealt with the situation, at least on the surface, in the most like win-win way that he could. Like, when I look at his case, it seems like he really trying to make a lot of lemonade out of this stuff and was eating his feelings, as apparently he gained 10 kilograms. And the weight gain on him actually didn't look bad, so they really seem to use him as kind of like, oh, here is Korea's G.I. Joe. So out of, you know, some of the guys, I guess, and one of you guys mentioned in the comments that, well, Taecyeon actually came out looking like John Cena, you know, like, you know, bulked up, and they definitely did a lot of publicity shots of him looking all cool, you know, the Korean, which is good, but, you know, again, like, did they pay him for that, you know, like, and he performed at one of the military kind of, you know, expos, galas, or, you know, some really big like military show. And so they definitely used him there, but he said that actually most of it wasn't so bad except the showers. Like, everybody was trying to see his junk in the shower or harassing him in the shower. Like, the shower, man, it is no good news in the shower. And apparently some people that were his buddies tried to get him like a stall in the corner. Not even a stall. They don't have stalls, right? It's all open. That's why everybody peeking. And so, like, in the corner at least, they tried to give him a spot there, but that wasn't always available. Like, you can't always pick and choose where you go to shower. Now, after he got out of the military, remember he filmed Vincenzo and he played that psycho, like, rich kid. And I think because I was surprised. I was shocked because he always had this goofy image, right? But then he played Psycho to a T, like, so well that I'm just like, dang. And now I think he actually maybe was taking out some of this pent up anger from the military and going all into this character, because there was especially one shower scene in the series where he even like attacks his own brother in the series with a towel, and I could see that probably came straight out of his, I'll call it, inspiration from his time in the military. Although I have to admit, for the character, for him, like, he looked good playing a psycho, but, and maybe because it came from like, method acting or something, but it's unfortunate. But again, that's what I'm saying, like, this dude turned all these lemons into lemonades, even into like excelling, I think, in that acting role. Like, he really excelled in Vincenzo. You gotta see it if you haven't seen it yet. Okay, let's go down to what I think is the most saddening case of this military kind of abuse of K-pop stars. Taemin of SHINee, apparently he had already gone in with conditions of depression. He was on medication, he was doing therapy, but it had worsened so bad that he was transferred out of the military. He was serving in the military band. So, some of you guys said like, okay, well, they can just serve in the military band. Even in the military band, apparently he was really harassed, and especially in the showers. And you can kind of see like perhaps why, maybe because like his look in SHINee was, more of like the flower boy, and so it definitely didn't look like a flower boy, like, after he got his buzz cut and like, was in the military. And apparently he also gained 10 kilograms, so I don't know what's in that food, but we all know that it's not good food, so it's probably like highly processed. And so apparently he had to be shifted out and serve the remainder of his time as a public service worker. Now, there wasn't like exactly explicit reasons why they stated beyond the depression, because they're saying like, well, in order to treat his depression properly, we have to take him out and let him be a public service worker or supplementary service. And essentially, when I looked it up, it's reservist duty. So I don't know exactly how that works out in Korea, but it seems like if it's reservist, you definitely don't have to spend time in the barracks. Now, what I do know is that there are some certain privileged positions in the military service. When you are conscripted to go, you're forced to go, right? But if you actually are a doctor or a medical student, you serve your time as a doctor in one of the military clinics, and they, take you to different clinics around the country during your time of service. But you actually get paid for that at a higher scale than the regular conscripts. And the biggest thing is that you actually get to have your own apartment that you rent on your own, but you are essentially commuting back and forth to the hospital to do your service. So there are a few other classifications or categories of professional classes that get to commute back and forth from their own private home while they're doing their mandatory military service. So I'm thinking, okay, potential compromise. if you are, and make it clear in the guidelines, not like how big of a celebrity you are or how, much you've contributed to the Korean economy with like a very nebulous scale, right? Because if they're not going to include K-pop stars or modern music stars in the classification of people who can get exemptions, which is basically classical musicians or sports stars who have achieved some sort of number one or number two awards domestically or abroad, then I would say make the distinction of anybody who is a known public person who is receiving too much harassment and, basically like looky-loos, especially in the showers. Maybe you even want to make a shower clause where if that is happening, then that person is eligible for commuting back and forth and to do duties that are not necessarily gonna be like, in that category. So whether they, like a doctor would go to a hospital, pop star, maybe they can go manage the music library or something, or like, polish those trumpets, but they probably should be able to commute if possible. Of course, that's probably gonna create a whole nother scandal where other idols might be abusing that system. Who knows? That'll be up to them for them to deal with. But right now, the showers are a hot zone, and they don't deserve that. And also, it makes no sense for that to be part of a military experience, because when we're trying to fight against our enemies, they're probably laughing, saying like, oh gosh, they have like a shower fixation that makes the country look weak. Because I'm telling you, like, probably in North Korea, I doubt, like, if a pop star goes into the shower, they're not gonna be they're not gonna care one way or the other. Put a ribeye steak in the middle of a group of them, they would probably go crazy walking back and forth trying to see like who can nab it. So it is not a good look for the South Korean military to have all this like shower fixation. Now here's a clapback. If they do find themselves in this scenario, or even if a regular person finds themselves in this scenario, then I'd say get your friend, at least make some friends, have them take pictures of the people taking pictures. Have them take videos of the people taking videos. Shame them. Or if they're drawing, find a talented artist. There's always some, people, there's people from all walks of life in there. I'm sure there's a lot of great, sketch artists. Have them sketch the scenario. Like, it'd be so funny to see like an art piece. All these guys like kind of like being like a looky-loo, like in the whatever the shower entrance is, and have that as like a tableau. Because why not them? And to take it even further, I'm serious, I don't understand why, because I have seen people who have come out of the military and they confront the people who abuse them, and they are so mad. And I don't know why people think that there's no life after the military, or even while you're in the military, why we can't look up like who your mama, grandma, brother, sister, dad, relatives, where you last worked, all those details. And while you're stuck in there, I can call up my friends and basically be like, well, why don't you go like find grandma at the department store and start yelling at her? I mean, why do they think that they are so oblivious to any type of retribution? Okay, let's go on to the barbershops, but on a related note, let's talk about the haircuts that are required of conscripts in the military. Now, there was a proposal about, I'd say now it's about 9 months ago, so last winter, where they said like, okay, we're going to get rid of these harsh hair laws with the conscripts, because most guys have to like do apparently the sports type athletic style, and this is a euphemism, or basically got to shave your head. it's the haircut is within 3 centimeters of the front and top and 1 centimeter on the side and back of the head. Now, some people are saying that this is like a violation of your constitutional rights to your own body. And I would actually say that yes. Why? Because this is a forced military experience in its conscription. If you signed up for the military and you voluntarily go in, and that's kind of the guidelines and progression, I mean, I think that's totally fine. Now, where it really gets to me is that actually not all the people have to do this hairstyle. Actually, the people who are officers, they can choose the executive standard type, and that has relaxed hair regulations. So that to me makes it extremely unfair that the people who actually chose to go to the military and then are higher up can have any kind of haircut they want within some sort of guidelines, whereas the people who are forced to go have their identity stripped from them. If you choose to go to the military, that is part of your identity. You probably proudly shave your head before you go in. But when you are there involuntarily, that is an aspect of somebody's identity that actually is a lot bigger than, most people think. Once you start losing your hair, you realize how big hair is to somebody's identity. And so they had decided to put the proposal out there saying that they were going to pass it and enact it in December of 2021. But then suddenly, apparently, they said that, oh, well, we don't have consensus in all branches of the military. So until we get consensus of all branches of the military, we can't enact that relaxed regulation. So now it looks like it's never going to happen. And so trust me, you guys, this is a very popular tactic of people who pre-install a back pedal when they're under public heat. They'll do something like this, officials, politicians, whatnot. And then when it comes time to implementation, it's real quiet. It's like, so did it happen or did it not? And then the quiet answer is like, oh, well, there's this like logistical hiccup. We need to have all consensus from all branches of the military, so we'll have to wait. You'll wait until you're dead. So took a trip to this barbershop. It was my second time there, so I really wanted to this time document a little bit of the experience, because I've walked by other barbershops before and they all seem to have like a really kind of cool similar interior. It is a little bit fabricated, like kind of a fantasy of the past, but I think that's what makes it even more charming when you go in there. And they do shaves and stuff, but I would say, like, at least in Korea, I don't know, maybe perhaps it's gone up, in quality and style around the world in terms of barbershops, but it seems like these guys really know what they're doing, in the sense of like these techniques are quite like traditional plus new. And so I don't think I ever had this kind of result from a barbershop before. And because before it was just like mowing the lawn when I was a kid, I used to go to the barbershop, and that really was kind of, there was like this old grandpa barber, and he really was like a relic of like the 50s and 60s, and it was good in the sense of like it was cheap and fast, and they were very friendly, very nice, and you always gave me a piece of bubble gum, with the comic in it afterwards. But the hair didn't look good. And I also think that the way that they do it in Korea, they want to make a Korean face with Korean hair look good. And in America, at least, I think they were just going through the motions, and it wasn't a top priority whether like what they did looked amazing on you. And so here, at least, I think I could tell that they take a lot of care, and they're shaping for your face. And in another video, I mentioned about like a photographer saying like, the photographer has to kind of view you as handsome or beautiful in order for the pictures to come out well. And I would say in Korea, the Korean professionals want Korean people to look good, whereas in perhaps other countries, it's not as necessarily the case. And so you get like real botched haircuts and you're just like, what the heck happened? Or botched makeup, botched styling, like it's not right for you. And they kind of don't care, or they kind of see you as like a stereotype that is not attractive, and so they're saying like, well, that's what Asian people look like. It's like, no. So if you are a guy from out of Korea and you want to experience the barbershop thing in here, I'd highly recommend it. However, you have to watch out because, you know, barbershops in Korea have had like a very notorious reputation where like there's some barbershops that are more than barbershops, and that's why people stay, you know, like, it's like, ew, like why would you want to go to gross. Like if you really wanted the old school barbershop treatment, there's like a chain called Blue Club, and it's still around and it's still cheap. I've never been because it looked like they just do a hackett job, but it seems like it's gotten more fancy, and wow, looks like they have good prices even on like hair color and like scalp care, and it's a chain, and so it's like Supercuts or Fantastic Sam's. I don't know if you still have that in the United States, but it is like a place where you just get a no-nonsense haircut. So if you're visiting Korea and you're a guy and just want a quick haircut, no fuss, and cheap, Blue Club. If you want to try the whole new barbershop experience, usually the guys there are like in their late 20s to early 40s. They're like all tattooed and they kind of have that cool vibe. And so the music is kind of cool too. It's like, whoa, like alternative rock from like the 90s or something. So it's definitely something that I think you should try to experience. Okay, let's go down to our skincare review of K-beauty products. So MISSHA is the line we're focusing on today. This is not sponsored. This is from my own personal collection. Because here in Korea, there's a lot of, I think, I'll call it product dumping. Like the manufacturers just need to clear out inventory. So there's always like irresistible deals. And so I always say like, oh, the K-beauty is cheap. But I do realize like once it's exported out to other markets, especially the United States, the price is reasonable, but it is not as cheap in Korea when you find like those deals. And so it's sort of like, I think the Bath and Body Works like deals, like, you know, sometimes it feels like that. But if you want to bring Bath and Body Works here in Korea, oh, it's so expensive. All right, so this is the Time Revolution, and so MISSHA itself is, I think the target market is women who like department store makeup and skincare but don't really want to pay all of that full price. There's girls in their 20s who, you know, like the Estee Lauder or maybe like the Lancome, but maybe don't want to pay all that. And then maybe like women in their 40s and above who have like tried all of the expensive stuff and they know that not all the expensive stuff is good. And so they gravitate towards this line, which is much cheaper and has some of the same kind of aesthetic or kind of philosophy behind their skincare. Now, MISSHA itself is like a total, like, they will chase and knock off everybody. So, like, in terms of, like, making their own version. So, after the whole, this was a while ago, but, you know, the Fukushima crisis, I swear, my SK2, that facial treatment essence that's supposed to use the fermented rice water, started to feel like it would irritate my skin. I'm not saying it's radiation, but I kind of felt like it was. So then I was like, all right, let's try to see if there's any alternatives. And there was a lot of Korean brands popping up. And so Time Revolution, the first treatment essence prescription pro ferment, is one of the solutions. And I think the new bottles are much different than this. So this was a while ago. And you're supposed to kind of like tap it on your face, and you can kind of smell the fermentation. Now, the thing with SK2, the reason why that is like very expensive and highly prized is that the concentration of the fermented rice water is really high and pure quality. And I would say some of the Korean ones, you can feel it like be a lot more diluted. And so I gave this a good try because, like, you know, all the way to the bottom of the bottle. I would say this one probably a pass, especially if you have to pay like the actual price for it. They may have updated their formula and improved it, but I would say like maybe a pass. But what would I buy this versus SK2, which is probably like 5 times the price? I'm probably would lean towards this, but know that like my other steps in the skincare have to also bring some of the performance, because this performance will be a little bit less. Now let's move on to the essence. Now this I think is part of like not necessarily copying the department store brands, but following the trends in Korean skincare. And right now Artemisia is a really popular ingredient, and that with Sika and some of the mug root, they're really focusing on bringing down irritation or redness. So this is a line that's trying to say that it's more natural in the sense of like they're using like more Korean herbal ingredients to bring down redness and then also bring kind of like a beautiful glow. Now I have to admit, after putting on that and then putting on this, my hand looks really good right now. But I would say this is medium. Like if you can find this at a really attractive price, I would go for this. Otherwise, I think I found better essences on the market, and I didn't think that it was that like redness calming. But definitely I wouldn't mind if this was, you know, on my shelf. Now the last thing is the night cream, which I thought was this was the biggest surprise, because I had the least expectations, and this was literally like one of those things where it was like super on sale. This is the Immortal Youth Cream, and it's also Time Revolution line. And the reason why I thought it would be not as good is that it's actually kind of like a heavier cream supposedly, and they said like use it in the winter, but I think like it was on sale like near the summertime, and I was just like, oh, this is gonna be too heavy. And actually I love this cream. Like, okay, out of all the 3, I would say buy this one if you can find it at a good price, because I have never been so confident about wearing a night cream during the day. Like this doesn't necessarily say it's for night, but I mean the whole thing looks like it might be for night. But if you want like kind of like a real solid cream, solid like feeling cream, but not have it so greasy, this is good. And I kind of feel like I see a difference in my skin when I do use this. So the Immortal Youth Cream, and I think it is very competitively priced compared to like other high performance, I'll call it a night cream, but you could, the reason why I'm amazed by it is that like I feel absolutely comfortable wearing this in hot, humid summer, on hot, humid summer days. And maybe it's because like the watery types, which is great for the summer, sometimes actually is a little bit too watery. And so like if it's really hot and you know you're not like in an air conditioned room and you're trying to put on BB cream after kind of like an aqua type of cream, it all becomes more of like a watery mess. But this kind of like lets it hold. And so if you're wearing makeup on top of this, like your makeup will have something to grip to, and it almost has, I'm sure it has dimethicone in it, so it also has a bit of a primer type of qualities with this. So that's the review of the Time Revolution by MISSHA. Just some tips, you know, you can't buy everything, so you might as well be well informed about, you know, some of the attributes that would affect your K-beauty experience. All right, guys, what do you think? Do you think really like the showers are an issue? Because I think, yeah, the showers are an issue. And we have to really fix that somehow in the Korean military, because that one issue might be just enough to kind of get us over to the next step. And we really are worried about what would happen to the BTS members in the military. And I'm saying that shower is the danger zone. All right, guys, what do you think? Put it in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. All right, guys, see you next time. Bye-bye.
Tune in next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Love you.